Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to talk about certain things. My favorite holiday is Halloween, and why I think computer science is the best degree to go for in college. So, Halloween and all sorts of holidays, right? You celebrate a holiday. Um, firstly, I'm not a very festive person. So, like, I feel like I might miss out on this Halloween, to be honest, just because I'm not gonna go trick or treating. But the idea of Halloween and scary things, spooky things, that is to me. I like that. I don't even like watching horror movies. I think they're too scary for me. But it's the vibes. The vibes are there. I like when things are have a sort of weird feeling. You know what I mean? Like it's dark and gloomy, but it's also kind of cool. Um, and you just don't see that with other holidays. Other holidays, it's more like we're gonna. We see it on Halloween too, but it's like we're gonna do this huge celebration. Everyone's gonna have an amazing time. I'm gonna be so happy. Ooh, yeah. Like, no. You don't see that in Halloween. You see, people are happy, but it's about engaging with the vibes. It's about engaging with the spirit. Um, monsters and all this stuff. It's just different vibes, Not like it's not daytime for one, and even just nighttime is such a vibe, Like going out at night. Like sometimes I go out at night for walks, and it's just completely different. It's a completely different space, uh, and mentally I'm in a different space compared to when I'm going on a walk during the day. So the idea of going on a night walk dressed up as something you're not, and knocking on random people's doors. Isn't that just exciting, Getting to meet all these different people. I think it's pretty cool. That's why it's my favorite holiday. Because I think it's the one where you can be the most imaginative. You can express yourself the most. Um, unlike Christmas or Easter, where you're pretty much just celebrating a very specific event. Um, Whereas, Halloween's sort of the same, but you have a little more freedom with how you want to go about it because you get to choose how you want to celebrate it. You get to choose what you want to dress up as. So that's why I like Halloween. I think, and also, I really like the fall. I was born in October. I don't know if it has anything to do with it. It's just a coincidence, but I really like the fall colors, autumn, all that stuff. Pumpkins. Really cool. It's a different vibe, like I was saying. It's a nice vibe. Like I wish every day was like October 20th or something. That would be nice. So that's why I like Halloween. And another thing, I shouldn't have my face so close to this camera. There you go. I'm not that important, you know what I mean? Okay. So another thing is why I chose computer science over something like math or physics or um, any of those sorts of scientific problem solving degrees that might even be more challenging than computer science, um, but nonetheless don't fulfill certain requirements I have for me liking a degree. For instance, I love math, I love physics, but I wouldn't want to pursue a degree in these fields because I would feel like I'm not getting the most out of the experience. What I mean by that is that intellectually, computation, like mentally computing problems, is great, right? We want to, like, having, it's arguably the most important skill in any field at all, right? Solving problems, in terms of solving problems specific to your field, right? Um, I may be wondering what else is there. Well, there's interacting with people, there's collaboration, there's managing a project. These things are fundamental to computer science. And you're also doing the math, you're doing the problem solving specific to the field, but it's not just bare computation and memorization. That's not to say I wouldn't, I mean, that's not to say people won't be satisfied with these fields. I'd say sorry, a math or physics degree is totally, I mean, these are great degrees. I would, if I couldn't pick CS, I would pick one of these, right? Um, or I'd pick another subject that I really enjoy that's challenging. I think so many people just don't want to challenge themselves. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why we're struggling with academics. Like scores are going down, guys. Um, like intellectualism is not as important as it was, and I don't understand why. Because it's the number one thing. It's like, it's why we're here, is because we've advanced intellectually. And with AI and large language models, it's a struggle now. It's going to be a massive struggle, but it also gives you more tools. And I think we are a species that loves tools, right? Um, uh, so the idea is to be successful. You want to use as many tools as you possibly can, but you want to use them to increase your knowledge. So, for instance, I think writing notes down in a notebook is great, but there are tools out there to make the process more fluid, to make gathering the information and recalling it, archiving it, whatever you want to call it, um, way easier. Now, you have to find what works best with you. For me, it's creating graphs. When I write my notes, I don't write them on a notebook. I don't type them, or I do type them, but I create a graph. And this is what I found to be the best way to write notes. For me, might be different for you, but I create my own graph, and I use Obsidian, which is software, and okay. So I talked about, going back a little bit. I talked about why I think physics and math might be undercutting some people's intellectualism, and that's because you don't learn plan. You don't think ahead. You don't plan out a project. Your project building skills, your communication skills with others, are, in my opinion, not as not as required or important to develop. I mean, of course, everyone has to develop communication skills to some degree, right? But with math, I think you can get away with being a little more isolated. Same with physics. Now, it obviously depends what career you go into, but with CS, pretty much if you're going for a CS degree, most of the time you're going to be a software engineer. And what that means is you're going to be working as a team on a project, and you're going to have to learn to communicate with others. Now, you also, like, why I like CS so much is that you're communicating logic to other people. That's the idea of programming. Programs are, at the end of the day, it's all just logic. Um, like a Turing machine is very logical. It's just fundamental principles of CS applied. Um, and so, like for instance, we have functional programming, and we have I forget what it's called, but basically a language where it's a theorem prover languages. These are languages um, built functionally, and so at the end of the day, programs are just a way to express logic, how a system works. And so CS is a brilliant degree to get into because you're constantly communicating logic to other people. That's how it works. You are um, writing code and making sure it's readable, it's idiomatic, which means it holds up to, it's written intended by the language specifications. Now, what this means is that there's going to be a lot of conflict. So you have to manage people's opinions about your code. You have to. The whole reason GitHub is a thing is because we want to collaborate and we want a system around it. But that means there's going to be conflicts, right? So you have a project, you have a maintainer, and you have one or more maintainers, and you have contributors, right? And these contributors have issues with the software. Most of the time, contributors use the software, right? Or if it's just a project, then if it's not a actual application, then they might be interested in the project for other reasons. But the bottom line is there's always conflict between the maintainers and the contributors. So that's the idea behind issues, right? You create an issue. So CS is like a combination of logic and communication. That's what it is. It's communicating logic to others. And that's why I like it so much, because you are expressing ideas. It's also why I like chess. Chess is a very subtle way to express logic to others. Albeit it's more of a competitive aspect of communication, right? Because you're trying to show them how much better you are. Trying to show them your thought process is superior compared to theirs. That, I mean, each move you're showing, hey, that might be dubious, that might be the wrong move. That's what you're trying to express to your opponent. So basically my point is, this is a very rare circumstance where you get the opportunity to communicate logic and reasoning to other people as a job. Now you can try and articulate yourself through writing in other fields, but I think there's just something very special about sharing this aspect with other people. It feels more intimate. Now, philosophy is another way of doing this, and it's also another field I really like. I think if I had to pick another field, I would definitely choose philosophy, because both CS and philosophy share certain subjects. For instance, logic. Logic is a subject that's shared between these fields. So yeah, it's just, I wish there was more fields like that, you know what I mean? Because CS helps you think this isn't original. this is an original statement, but I definitely agree with the idea that CS helps you think differently. I mean, you are. I feel like most people who want to go into these fields value their intelligence, and I think that's another thing, right? It's another opinion I have. I have a lot of opinions, but a lot of times I keep them to myself. I think people need to value intelligence a lot more than they do. They need to value a lot of things, um, but intelligence is super important. I'm not a very intelligent person. Like, the things I'm saying are very opinionated, right? I might not just be sharing important stuff to you, but um, the one thing I do have is that even at a young age, whenever I saw someone who was really smart, I was just so fascinated by them. Right? I would try to hang out with them. You know what I mean? And I really enjoyed listening to them because it meant that I was getting high quality information. Um, when I say information, it doesn't necessarily mean like I'm hearing trivia or certain facts about the world. No, what I'm saying is I get to understand their thought process. And that's what I honestly think, that desire to understand thought process is why I'm in CS. It's because code and programming as a whole is a way more is a concise way, especially logic, is a concise way to express thought processes to others. Um, and you can do this with math. Um, I just think the problem I have with math is that you spend a lot of time getting the rules down, the concepts down. You spend a lot of time memorizing and recalling information. Um, it's not necessarily. I need to think about this. Okay. So the difference is, I was trying to think about it. I'll do that. I need to do that more often because sometimes I just say things without thinking, and I'll get backlash for it for sure. So the difference is with programming and computer science as a whole, you have more freedom to go about a problem, right? In a specific way, the way you want to. You have more freedom. With math, there's pretty much only a handful of ways to go about a problem in terms of solving a mathematical equation, or in terms of expressing a proof. I mean, I guess proofs would be that's not a good example, because that is where you can be creative and try and problem solve. But with just solving equations or solving math problems, it seems like there's really just a straightforward process that you have to memorize, and then the only thing you're building up is your computation ability. How fast can you do the problem? How efficiently can your brain structure the problem and break it down? Whereas in CS, you have a lot more freedom to think about the problem. Think of LeetCode. These are really difficult problems to solve, especially the hard ones. And so these are authentic problems. And I mean, unless you really, really study these problems, which I hope I'll have the opportunity to do, you have it's almost like you go about a problem in a unique way every single time. Um, it's not like, well, I can't remember how to do this, so I'm going to look it up. Well, no, you have the opportunity to come about a solution through trial and error, through backtracking, any sort of heuristic, you have the ability to problem solve it. So, because programming is just, it's incremental abstraction. So you can with very simple rules, you can build very sophisticated systems that break down a problem and efficiently solve it. So that's the difference. Now, yeah, this is the main difference, I think, is that it doesn't feel as intellectually stimulating when you're just memorizing equations. And there's obviously things you do have to memorize. So, for instance, when to use a certain heuristic, when to use, how to identify, like for instance, complexity, or like certain algorithms. That's obviously stuff you memorize in data structures and algorithms course. And there's syntax, but like other than that, there's not much. A lot of it is hard to get at, right? So if you want to talk to somebody about programming, what do you even talk about? I mean, you can talk about technologies and using them, but it'd be very weird to talk about like, I don't know. I say that, but I actually wish we would do that. What I mean is talking about specific problems and like solving them on the spot, just using natural language. And I wish there was a way to do that, like a natural language way of expressing a problem. Everyone who hears it understands. It's kind of like hearing a math equation. It's pretty difficult. But that one thing right there is why I prefer CS. Because, hey, the amount of problem solving you do, the amount of communication you do between people, that's dependent on your field. In CS, you're most likely to experience more of that than math, but it depends completely. I think it probably depends more. So, but just the ability to see new problems every time. Not just the same problem with different numbers, but completely unique problems that no one's ever seen before. And deconstruct them using logic and using certain rules, the semantics of a language, and then get an answer. That's also why I'm become more and more interested in functional programming, because it's based on lambda calculus, which is you can express logic more concisely with these languages, is what I've seen so far. They have theorem provers. These are functional languages. But I mean, I haven't gotten that far into it. I want to learn Scala, but I'm kind of debating on it because, geez, man, the ecosystem for Scala is just not there yet, and it seems like the community is almost vacant, which sucks. I mean, that's me being presumptuous again. Like, I don't know. I haven't really looked that much. Just like the Discord and everything. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I think if you enjoy problem solving, if you want to stimulate yourself, I think CS is the way to go. And that's not to say you can't study math on the side. I mean, I love math. Don't need to learn calculus 3. But I'm a physics and math tutor, so there's a reason I'm that. I love these subjects. It's just the memorization and recall is what frustrates me. I like it when there's a very simple way to improve, but the skill ceiling is massive, right? That's like chess. Like I was saying, chess. So chess is an example of that. It has very simple rules. The skill ceiling is massive. Like I don't know if you guys know about Carl Sagan. You guys watch this guy, and he can recall games from like 10 years ago. That's absolutely insane. He just sees the position and recognizes it. Now, chess relies a lot on memory, and that's kind of why I've or it's not that it relies heavily on memory, and that's why I don't like it. It's more like I don't see, I don't see the end goal in being a really good chess player, because unfortunately, if you weren't brought up with chess, chances are you're not going to go pro. But I mean, it's a good pastime. It involves a lot of calculation and memorization, but the difference is you are communicating that to somebody else, and I really enjoy doing that. So let's think. Yeah, so closing thoughts, because I've been yapping for like 30 minutes almost. Um, I love all these subjects. I think we should focus more um, on these subjects. I think each of these subjects is awesome. Um, well, here's I'll just give you a rundown of all the subjects I really like in terms of study. I don't care about the how much they pay. I don't care about any of that. It's so silly. I mean, practically speaking, you want to care, but in terms of what's stimulating, what's enjoyable. So, my number one, CS. Number two is philosophy. Number three, hmm. I'm debating on math, physics, or psychology. Maybe they'll all be tied for three. Psychology is a lot different than math or physics, right? Um, it's a different kind. You're memorizing a set of theories and theories about the mind, theories about human behavior, about the brain, stuff like that. Understanding how the brain works on a biological aspect. But I think, man, with CS and psychology, there seems like there's so much room to make ground on. Like there's just different ways of thinking that you can achieve. It's a very complex field. Um, the brain is very complex. People's human behavior is very complex, and it's theorizing, and so it's enjoyable. Same with philosophy. All three of those, it's just theorization. It seems like there's so much you can do there. There's so much to be learned. There's so much there to advance. It feels like, you know what I mean. Like these are the frontier subjects. And I mean physics. You can that's advancing all the time. That's why I like it. Um, Math, it's advancing all the time. It just seems a lot more difficult to make advancements on these things. You need to understand. Uh, you need to have a very advanced understanding of these fields, and it just seems more intimidating, right? Um, because you need such an advanced understanding, uh, it's pretty much um, it doesn't feel like as engaging, you know? Because the idea of going to like a research college or whatever university is that you want to contribute somehow. Um, to me, both psychology, philosophy, and CS feel like subjects where you can, just based on your way of thinking, can come about different or different new knowledge that people will need to hear. Um, for instance, this is just me theorizing now. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna make it a new video. So, so hearing me yap, I'll try to be more articulate in the future. That's why I'm doing this stuff. You know, I want to build skills, and just share my thoughts. But yeah, if you enjoyed, leave a comment or something. But yeah, thanks for watching.